everybody, welcome to Bad Yogi Q&A Wednesday with me, Erin Watts. Today I'm going to be talking specifically to yoga teachers, but I think a lot of what we're going to talk about actually applies to anyone who works independently or creatively in any way. So definitely listen up because a lot of what I'm going to talk about covers many different industries. Every week I get some of the same questions about the struggles of teaching yoga. And really the problems that some of us face are the problems that all of us face. So I'm gonna address some of those today. So the first question is, how do you deal with burnout and overscheduling? I cannot even tell you about how much I understand burnout. When I was teaching full-time, I went all in. So I quit my corporate job, I started teaching full-time, and I taught over 25 classes a week, plus private clients. So I was regularly booked for 20 to 25 classes, and it was way too much. Not only was it a lot of classes, but they were all heated. So they were all 75-minute hot yoga classes, most of which were powerful, and it was just too much. So I burned out in about 7 months. The biggest piece of advice I can give you is take a break. Now I know that taking a day off or 2 days off sometimes means taking a financial hit as well, but believe me, it is worth it. I think you need to stop feeling guilty for not loving what you're doing in those moments of burnout. Accept that those are the feelings you have in this moment and cater to them a little bit. Step away, get some distance so you can actually find inspiration and breathe new life into what you do. Piggybacking on that question is, how do you get inspired as a yoga teacher? Finding inspiration is another one of those huge hurdles that a lot of yoga teachers and creative types face. People often ask where I find my class inspiration, and honestly, I am most inspired by things that have nothing to do with yoga. I love studying anatomy and biomechanics, and I watch other practices of movement like dance and basketball practice, and I look at CrossFit, I look at what gymnasts do. I kind of look at all different means of expression and I get inspiration from that. So sometimes I'll see something really interesting and cool that an athlete does and I adapt it to the yoga practice. So I think when you're feeling a lack of inspiration, staring at the thing that's not inspiring you is not gonna do you any good. Get out of that zone and go do something else entirely. That reminds me of another story, actually. So I can't remember if I read this or if I heard it, but basically I saw at some point that Einstein, when he was really stuck on a math problem, when he could not figure out where to go next, he would drop it and go play an instrument. So I forget what instrument it was, but that's not really relevant. He would go play an instrument, and I thought that this was so interesting because then once he would kind of have this other outlet, he'd be able to come back with a clear head and solve the problem. And I think that's the perfect illustration of exactly what I'm trying to say to you. And that's, step away from the thing that's causing you all of this headache and go do something else. Take a break. Trust me, it will pay off. Okay, next question. What do you do when people don't pay you? All right, here's the thing. I've run into this several times, and I think one thing to remember is that your clients are always more uncomfortable with money than you are. You are in charge. So don't be a jerk about it, but don't beat around the bush with it either. One way to avoid this as a yoga teacher that I would do is I would structure my private classes in packages. So I would, instead of saying like, okay, I'm gonna come every week and you'll pay me every week, I would say you have to buy a minimum of 5 classes with me. I would give them a small discount for packaging them together, and then they would pay me once every at least 5 weeks. So the way that I would do that is, of course, I think most people, I'm kind of talking in circles, but I think most people aren't trying to stiff you. You know, most people don't want to get on your bad side or to try to screw you over. Some people do, but most people just forget, or it's not in the forefront of their mind. So keep that in mind too. But back to my package of classes, if they were late in paying, I would just send them a quick message the day before I was coming to teach or 2 days before I was coming to teach, and I would let them know, hey, I'm really looking forward to seeing you in class tomorrow. Just so you know, we're up for renewal again, so I'll go ahead and take care of the payment before we start so that you don't have to think about it when we're practicing. So kind of taking the load off of their mind, like, hey, we're gonna take care of this before, not to worry, and then we can just have a really easy, feel-good class afterwards. You know, it kind of assumes that, yes, you're going to pay me and I expect it, but you're not being a jerk about it, you're being straightforward, and it just puts that reminder in the person's head, you know? You're taking control without being an ass. And lastly, I'll say, kind of what I said earlier, and that's some people are trying to get something for nothing, and that you do not have to tolerate. Any kind of this passive-aggressive behavior is just not something you need to deal with. It's okay to fire a client when they're not a good client. And I know sometimes those people still pay the bills, but do not be afraid to stand up for yourself and claim what is rightfully yours. Alright, so those are the most common questions I get about being a yoga teacher and the struggles of being a yoga teacher. Now I hand it over to you. What do you struggle with most when it comes to teaching yoga? Or if you're in a different industry, but you're independent and a little bit creative, what are the things that you always struggle with? I'm curious if there's any overlap. So there you have it, Q&A Wednesday. I really hope that this was helpful. Now make sure you let me know what you thought in the comments down below, and of course, sign up for my list to keep getting things like this, free yoga classes and resources, and a bunch of other stuff I only put in email. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you right back here next time.